Hi, welcome back to Homeschool Peace. I'm Cassandra. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how I keep all of my Logic of English core materials organized. If you frequently visit my channel, you probably already know that we use the Logic of English, both the Essentials and their Foundations programs here in our home. With that comes lots of different cards and little tiles that you have to keep organized and ready for your lessons. So in today's video, I'm just going to be walking you through some tips and tricks and ideas of how we keep our materials organized and ready to go for our lessons. There are many different ways that you could choose to organize and store your Logic of English core materials. Over the 5 years of using the Logic of English products, I have done different things from bins, boxes, containers. What I'm sharing with you today, I have found works the best for our family. So hopefully some of these tips or tricks or ideas may help you as well. So let's start by taking a look at this first shoebox. I start with a plastic shoebox. This plastic shoebox typically has a lid that snaps on. I don't use the lid when organizing my material. Inside this plastic shoebox, I have these photograph holders. These are for photographs that are 5 by 7, and I also have a different size. The smaller one is for photos that are 4 by 6. If you're looking to set up your cards and material in a system like I have, make sure that you are measuring your cards and know which cards can actually fit into the boxes. I found that most of my cards fit best when I'm using the 5 by 7 photograph holders. The 4 by 6 I can use, but they're more for the game tiles and game cards, which we'll get into in a minute. So now taking a look first at some cards, I have here the basic Phonogram flashcards. Now with these cards, I have them in the larger 5 by 7, and these boxes are nice and sturdy. They have a little clip that opens and closes, and I found these just really work well for keeping them safe and so they don't get roughed up in my material. When I have these, I have one set for my foundation student, and I have another set for the students that I'm teaching essentials. If you have students that you're teaching either in different levels of foundations, or you have students both in foundations and essentials, you may want to pick up 1 or even 2 extra packs of cards for the basic phonograms, because the phonograms are introduced in a different order in foundations than they are in the essentials program. It can be really helpful to have cards that are set aside just for one student that they're working on and other cards for the other, or you'll end up sort of mixing up the sets. So for my foundation student, I have here 3 different sections on how I have these cards organized. First, I have my single letter phonogram cards. My student is going into level C this year. She already knows these. Sometimes we pull them out for review, but I can pretty much keep these separate. Next, I have the phonograms that she has mastered through the level B of foundations. These ones are ones that we'll still be reviewing and having part of our level C material. Then I have the cards that she'll be going into for foundations level C separately. As she is learning these from C, I'll be pulling these out and putting them with the stack that she has already worked on or mastered, so that when we are working and practicing and doing some flashcard review, I can have all the ones that she has from B, as well as any of the ones that she's learning from C mixed in together, ready to go for our lessons. Then for my essentials student, I have the separate cards similar to how I have them for foundations. I have the single letter phonograms, the A through Z. Those are separate. My kids do already know those who are in essentials. For essentials, we're going to be going through all the basic phonograms again when we go through units 1 through 30. So I have these in just one large stack. As we are working on the new phonograms or bringing in the review of those phonograms in essentials when they're introduced, I have ready a rubber band. And so that's something as just a tip whenever you're organizing your materials. If there's something that you know you're going to be using, whether a paper clip or a binder clip, put it in your container so it's ready to go. If I have these off to the side, I can just get the rubber band put right on them, and then as we are working on them, I can take them from the larger stack to a smaller stack as they are practicing and working on their phonograms. And that's how I organize the phonogram cards. Next up, I have the Spelling Rules flashcards. And this set is really great when you are going through Foundations Level D. It's actually included in the kit for D. If you are moving just into Essentials, this would be included in the Essentials complete set as well. And so with these cards, I have gone through a few different methods of using these cards. When introducing these spelling rules to my student, I have gone through the process of pulling these out. So say if these were the cards that they have already worked on, I would have these separate from the other set. Now, what I have found over the years of using these spelling rule flashcards and now having students in both Foundations and Essentials, I prefer just to keep these cards in order so they are numbered. I find that keeping sort of like this separate stack worked really well when I was in the Foundations level, but when you have students that you're using the same set between both Foundations and Essentials, I find just keeping them in order really helped. Next up, I have the grammar flashcards. These are stored again in that 5x7 size, which works really great for these cards. This set of grammar cards is definitely the thickest of really any of the flashcards, but I found it still fits really great in this bin. There's a couple ways that you can organize it. I have pulled aside cards as my student is learning the particular grammar cards. I've also tried just keeping them in numbered order. So those are some options. I can say that the smaller set is the ones that they go through during the Foundations D level. These cards are not required to teach Foundations D. There's actually a PDF that you can print from the Logic of English to print up just the 8 grammar flashcards that you actually go through the Foundations level. So for my students, because I already have the cards, I do keep this smaller set of just those 8 cards that are for Foundations. I have those labeled. They're off to the side. The other ones, I just keep in numbered order. Teaching Foundations and then going into teaching Essentials, I've found that I've just needed to be able to pull out a card whenever I need it, and just having those numbered and in order, I can easily just pull those out as we're working on it. So I would say if you have just maybe one student you're teaching, just pulling out the cards may work really well, especially if you are using these in the Foundations level. You can just pull out the ones that you need so you don't have the giant stack. But then if you are teaching more than one student, I found it really helpful just to keep them in numbered order. For the advanced phonogram flashcards, I have those stored in that same 5x7 plastic photo size. And with these cards, I do have them separated a little bit differently than the other ones I just looked at. I have my set that's just the advanced phonograms that we work on through Foundations Level D. I have the set that we work on for Essentials Level B, and then Essentials Level C. So with these advanced phonograms, when you are going through the Foundations D level, you actually do not need this full set of cards because there's only 9 of the advanced phonograms that you're going through with level D. So with Foundations, if you don't have this set, that's fine. You can just use the teacher's manual. If you want to have something in your hand, you can also print the free PDF of just the 9 cards that you're going through with Foundations Level D. So that's definitely some options there. I have the cards, so I just bring them out when working with my Foundations D student. When going through the Essentials B, I was able to just have these separate cards as well as the ones that they had already worked on through Foundations. So in reviewing advanced phonograms, I would just review both of these together with my students that were in B. For my son going into Essentials C, we'll be going through this larger stack, so that is why I have those separated. So whether you're just working with one student or if you have multiple, you might want to be able to break these up, having just those rubber bands off to the side. So even if you're just working with one student, as they're learning those advanced phonograms, you can just pull them off to the side so they're ready to go when you want to review. The next set of cards to share with you is specific to the Essentials program. So in Essentials, there's 4 total volumes or 4 teacher's guides, and with those is morpheme cards, 1 pack for each of those books, so a total of 4 packs. The cards that I'll be using for this fall, starting off, is for units 1 through 7, since that's where my students are right now in the program. For the other books, I have the other cards over in this separate shoebox. This shoebox is one that I access regularly, but this one is my daily out for my lessons. This one holds my extra stuff. So in here I have for units 8 through 15, as well as 16 through 22, 23 through 30. And so I keep those separate in this bin. And then as we finish unit 7, I'll bring the next bin over and sort of flip those two around. Again, these are those 5x7 photo box holders. These are the little bit of the larger cards. So inside here, for essentials, there's 3 total levels, A, B, and C. And so I have those broken up by those levels. So I have a rubber band, a little green tab on it. It's for the green color, so I have those color coded. These are the morphemes that my middle student will be going through in Essentials B. Then I have orange to match the orange color, so a little orange tab on this one with the rubber band of all of the morphemes my son will be going through in the Essentials level C. At the end of the bin, I have just the few blue ones. These would be for level A, which I have not really used level A with my students. They've all tested from foundations into level B. That's why I have B and C ready to go. Then I have, again, some rubber bands that are set and ready in my bin. So then as my student is going through this particular pack and she's learning those, I can pull the ones that we've already worked on out and put them in a separate rubber band, as well as for my son going through this larger C set as he's learning those through units 1 through 7. I can pull those out, use the separate rubber band, keeping those separated by by level C, the ones he knows and the ones he doesn't know yet. And that's how I organize those morpheme cards. The last thing I have in this particular shoebox is the tactile cards. We have both the manuscript and the cursive tactile cards. Here in our home, we chose to use manuscript for the foundations level, and then moving into the essentials program, we then introduced cursive. Some families might do that in reverse, but for here in our home, I have the manuscript cards ready to go for my younger student. Since she's already mastered the uppercase and lowercase manuscript letters, she doesn't access this too much, but it is in alphabetical order. I have both the uppercase and the lowercase in the same set, since she already knows both. Now, if you have a student that is just starting foundations, you might want to consider pulling out the specific, say, lowercase cards they're working on, or when they move to foundations level B, the uppercase letters that they're working on is also very helpful. It's what I did when my student was in those lower foundations levels, but for right now, since she's going into foundation C, I'll just have these accessible for her if she did have a question with forming a specific letter. For the cursive set, they are organized the same way. I just have them separated again by the alphabetical order of the uppercase and lowercase. I have our strokes in a separate pack, and then the numbers separate as well. So my middle student will be using the rhythm of handwriting along with her essentials program this fall. She'll be using cursive. So we will be actually using these cards this fall, which is why I have it in my regular bin that we'll be using. And so that's how I organize those tactile cards. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I have inside this second bin of cards. Inside this other shoebox, I have first to share with you the Phonogram game cards. These game cards come in both book face, manuscript, or cursive. And so I have 2 sets of these cards. And this is really helpful since I have 1 student that's in foundations, 2 that will be in essentials. So if you have, say, 2 students, they can definitely share these cards. If you start adding more students or you're having kids at different levels, you may want to consider picking up a second set of these game cards. So for this one I have, for my younger student, she has the manuscript and then the book face. For these manuscript cards, I have these broken up by the multi-letter phonogram cards. I have the actual game cards themselves, and then the single letter phonograms. I have that rubber band ready to go, so as we are practicing one specific to the phonogram she's working on, I'm able to keep those separate. Then for book face, it's set up pretty much the exact same way, but you can see how these are the font is specific to book face, which then she will then match to the manuscript cards when playing games. So I have still the game cards and then multi-letter phonograms and single letter phonograms. For my essential students, I have the same setup, but we're using a green box, which is a sort of fun, keeping them color-coded, green for the cursive. And so this cursive set, they're able to share because the games they'll be playing together. letter. And so I have these again broken up by the multi-letter, single letter, as well as then the game cards. And then they have a separate set of book face cards. Why is so that I can then keep those organized. So I can have the separate cards they're working on for cursive and book face and essentials separate from the manuscript and the book face for foundations. And so that's how I keep those game cards organized for my students, especially with 2 different levels. The last thing I wanted to share is the phonogram game tiles. These game tiles are used as part of some of the activities, as well as using these to form different words during the lessons. The first thing that I have for organizing them is this large cookie sheet that's magnetic. On the back side of all these little cardboard tiles, I have stuck just a small piece of magnet tape, which really is helpful for organizing and making different words up. I also have these separated by the single letter phonograms as well as the multi-letter basic phonograms. I have my vowels running across the top, the single letter vowels running across the top, and then I have all the single letters here. On this side, I have these broken up by the blues, which is the multi-letter consonant phonograms, then the red being the multi-letter vowel phonograms, and then the purple being the R-controlled. I do have those all separate, and so that my student can easily identify where to go to find the specific card they're looking for. For all the additional cards that I'm not using currently on this board, I have those in a separate small 4x6 box, and I can pull these out at any time and add to the tiles that we already are working on. And these magnetic boards and magnetic tape is a really great way to keep these tiles organized for your student. I hope this was helpful going through how I organize our materials. Hopefully some of these ideas you can pull from when preparing your materials for the school year. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. And before you leave, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.